Okay, so moving right along, looking at what we're going to do is take a look at homework problems. So now that we've kind of laid the groundwork where things are positive and negative, let's do homework problems. And what I want to make sure we understand is this is the way we're going to do this without a calculator. All right, so you have to use the definition, you have to use your understanding of trig stuff. Of course, you could always check your calculator, all right, but try to do this without one, because that means you're building a true understanding of the definitions, the pictures, the results, which is going to make you a better trig student later when we really need it, when we're graphing and solving equations, etc., etc. All right, so please put these away, all right, and watch and learn. So the sine of 290, yes, of course, I can just put this in my calculator and determine where it's positive and negative. It's that simple, right? But to ground this in the definition, this is what it's going to look like. Sine we know to be y over r for any angle, right? And 290, if we drew a picture of it, we knew that 290 basically sits in quad 4, right? And again, you either memorized it or you can kind of go through the little dynamics. What do we know in this quadrant? Well, y is negative and r is positive. So my ratio is a negative over a positive. So that basically tells us that the sine of 290 is going to be negative. All right, and so we got that. So that's how you do that using the definition, right, and pictures to justify our reactions. That's what I'm expecting you guys on the quizzes. All right, so table the calculators for a while. Cosine of negative 65, well, by definition, cosine is x over r. Negative 65, if we drew a quick picture of that, well, that's an angle that also sits in quad 4. What do we know about quad 4? Well, x is positive and r is positive. So I have a positive divided by a positive, so that means the cosine value is going to be positive. And again, check it out with your calculator and you can verify that. Tangent of 170, well, by definition, tangent of 170 is y over x. 170, when I draw a picture of that, that's going to be really close to 180 degrees, but it's basically in quad 2. So what do we know about quad 2? X is negative and y is positive. So I have a positive divided by a negative. That means that we're expecting a negative value out of the tangent of 170. All right, and so forth and so on. So cosecant of 63, well, by definition, this is r over y. Drawing a picture of 63 degrees, that's about as nice as it can get, right? 63 degrees lies in quad number 1. We know everybody's positive, right? So that we can just use that understanding, or we know that r is positive and y is positive. So positive divided by a positive needs to be positive. Secant, right? Secant of 260. Well, what we know again, secant by definition is r over x. So if I drew a picture of 260, right, that's actually going to take us all the way to here, close to 270. So there's 260. So this is a quad 3. And in quad 3, we know that x is negative, y is negative, and r is always positive. So I have a negative over a positive. So the secant of 260 will be negative. All right, using the definition. And then last but not least, cotangent, right, of negative 237, right? So again, cotangent is x over y. If I drew a picture of negative 237, that's going to take us this way, past negative 180, not up to quite to negative 270, right? So there's a rough guesstimate of what negative 237 degrees looks like. Of course, this lies in quad 2. And in that quadrant, x is negative, y is positive. So I have a negative divided by a positive. That forces that guy to be negative. All right, so again, if you want the decimal value in the approximation, obviously you can punch that in a calculator. Just make sure it's in degree mode. And then not only will you get the positiveness or negativeness, but you will also get a decimal value for that. And we'll talk about that later. But this is what you should be prepared to do on a quiz. Make sure you can answer things using the definition. If you can, that means you start to understand the definition and you can use it in a lot of other different places to build more math. You can't do that with the calculator. So please be aware of that. We're already 5 minutes into this, and the next problems are we got to put our thinking caps on. So let me go ahead and stop this one, and I'll come back and we'll cut away for these guys.